They have your kids for 8 hours a day. And this is the kind of that they're teaching them. I am surprised that more parents aren't livid. Let's start off lightly. Let's look at the FBI and DOJ and what they're doing right now. They're going to investigate parents.
Yeah.
This is
school board.
Pardon my language, okay? If you have kids right there, this is f***ing terrifying. It is evil. And all of this was shoehorned in under the guise of the Patriot Act a long time ago where, and I understood it at the time, my mistake. Now, I wasn't even old enough to vote for George Bush at this point. That being said, I thought, okay, I understand because we're facing terrorism. But you know what? Libertarians and conservatives and people who opposed it were right, because now what was originally designed to be used, right, to secure us from foreign threats, to spy on foreign threats, is now being used internally to investigate and to monitor Americans at an unprecedented level. This is what's important. When people say, well, Democrats didn't oppose the debt ceiling being raised under Trump. Trump spent some money. You're absolutely right. And on this show, we weren't big fans of the $1.5 trillion bill when we were talking about the COVID pandemic. We thought, listen, we just have to march our way through it. But do you really want to compare that to what are we now, $7 trillion in the first 6 months?
Yeah.
The scale is different. Sure, Americans have had to be patted down at the TSA or go through those nudie x-ray machines, which we all oppose. But the level with which the pernicious nature of this government using what were designed to be tools in times of war simply to investigate and intimidate political dissidents, by admission, no one said that they're violent right now.
No.
At these meetings. Let's flip that really quickly. Actual domestic terrorists, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, who've killed people.
Yes.
Killed people, who've committed billions of dollars in damages. Merrick Garland, right? I think we have a montage clip. What did he say when asked if they were investigating these people?
We look at Antifa as more of an ideology or a movement than an organization.
Do you regard assaults on federal courthouses or other federal property as acts of domestic extremism, domestic terrorism?
So an attack on a courthouse while in operation plainly is domestic extremism.
Say it, terrorism.
Domestic terrorism. An attack simply on a government property at night or any other kind of circumstances is a clear crime and a serious one and should be punished. Both are criminal. But one is a core attack on our democratic institutions.
Oh, okay. So like burning down a courthouse? Remember when they said, hey, insurrection. Look, let's be clear, an insurrection requires a plan to overthrow the government.
Right.
Not like, I had a few O'Douls and I'm here.
Taking a podium.
That's non-alcoholic, right? Give me the fire extinguisher. What the hell's the difference? The point is, when you talk about an insurrection, requires a plan.
Yeah.
And an insurrection can happen at a national level, it can happen at a federal level, it can happen at a local level. What about burning down a courthouse? What about firebombing a police precinct? Is that not considered an insurrection?
Yeah.
What about, hey, when we talk about domestic extremism, which by the way we're talking about terrorism, terrorism is violence as a means to an end to subjugate and implement a point of view. Do you think that, are you a Trump supporter? We've got a Trump supporter here. Bam, bam to the face like Travis Bickle. Do you think that might be domestic terrorism? That happened in Chop, Seattle.
Yep.
Not a peep.
No, not a peep at all. And I love how he pivots away from this. He's like, well, if the courthouse wasn't, in use, they waited till 5:01.
Yeah.
I think it was fine. But here's what he didn't say. Police stations were burned with police officers still there.
So now let's contrast that. Merrick Garland urging the FBI to mobilize against parent protests. Saying, reading it, in recent months, there has been a disturbing spike in harassment, intimidation, and threats of violence against school board administrators, board members, teachers, and staff. In the coming days, the department will announce a series of measures designed to address the rise in criminal conduct directed towards school personnel. Anyone have a rap sheet? We've made our rap sheet available. Again, all references, all sources are available at louderwithcrowder.com with a link in the description. We have a long rap sheet with Black Lives Matter and Antifa.
Yep.
Where's the rap sheet for these parents?
I think what he is saying, he's so loosely defining what he's going after. It's people being held accountable on school boards for what they're doing to these people's children.
I am directing the FBI, working with each U.S. attorney to convene meetings with federal, state, local, and tribal leaders. Got to include them.
Yeah.
Tribal leaders.
They're surprised at that letter. What?
The
Apparently schools that aren't they're hosting parent-teacher assault. Why didn't we think of that? You rolled an 8. That's time to pay up.
Yes. We'll now hear from the mother of
Heartache.
Buffalo Soldier.
Yes. Justin Hoffman, stop sleeping in our teepees. So,
Yes.
convene meetings with federal, state, local, and tribal leaders. Facilitate the discussion and strategies for addressing threats against school administrators, board members, teachers, and staff, and will open dedicated lines for threat reporting, assessment, and response. And, of course, this was spurred by the National School Board Association.
They wrote that. They wrote that letter to the White House, and within a week, Merrick Garland comes out with his thing saying we're going to get the FBI involved. And they said they threw in the catch line for everything. They wanted domestic terrorism and hate speech.
The hate speech that's inappropriate, speech that could be considered a terrorist threat, by the way, we're going to show you some clips, could literally be repeating the curriculum back to them. I warn you, if you have kids right now, I always say this isn't a trigger warning. I just don't want kids watching something. But unfortunately, they're teaching it in schools.
Yeah.
There are parents protesting pornographic material, racist material, and if they try and read it at the PTA, they try and shut them down and say it's inappropriate. So keep that in mind. Repeating the words that your teachers deliver to your children when they have authority of them, and you are not able to defend your child, is considered a terrorist threat. Let's be clear about that. They have your kids for 8 hours a day, and this is the kind of that they're teaching them. I am surprised that more parents aren't livid. Let's start off lightly. So, here's some examples. Critical race theory. People try and say, oh, it's a boogeyman. No, it's not. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
It was just mandated by Gavin Newsom. California, under the disguise of ethnic studies. But, of course, it talks about racial superiority and a hierarchy and things like white privilege. Okay.
Yeah.
Last year, California teachers and the education organizations released a toolkit called A Pathway to Equitable Math Instruction. The toolkit is described as resources and guidance to support Black, Latinx, and multilingual students to thrive in grades 6 through 8. The toolkit consists of 5 strides on the path to math equity. Stride 1 is dismantling racism in mathematics instruction. I always thought the cosine tangent seemed a little like a pointed hat. Its first chapter includes a section on dismantling white supremacy in math classroom.
Oh, good.
Some of the listed ways
Because
math...
whites are the supreme people at math.
Yeah.
What are you adding up K's to 3?
Some of the listed ways that math perpetuates white supremacy. This is from equitablemmath.org, so you know it's official. The focus on getting the right answer. That's wrong. That perpetuates white supremacy.
Wait, what?
Students are being tracked.
Hold on,
Students
say
are
that. Wait, what?
Yeah, these are
The
examples
focus
that
on
math,
getting the right answer.
Yes. Students are required to show their work. Grading practices are focused on lack of knowledge. So look.
Just wanted to make sure I heard you right before I went home and ended it.
Yes. Look. This is racist. It's saying that getting the right answer in math class is white supremacy. You are so racist. Not even kind of racist. You are the problem. Again, what are they saying? You stupid black people.
Yeah.
You can't be expected to get the right answer in math. We shouldn't expect you to show your work. Math should not. That's a construct of white supremacy. This is the bullcrap with things like math where you think that they shouldn't be involving any of the humanities.
So stupid.
But this past month in Fairfax, Virginia, again, the FBI DOJ wants to investigate you for this. If you're mad about that, if you think all of us right now as parents, if we were dumb enough to put our kids in public school,
Don't do it.
right?
No.
We'd show up and be mad. They would say, you're potentially domestic terrorist for saying the right answer is the right answer in math. But there's more to it. Fairfax, Virginia, this past month, watch how they react when hearing their own curriculum read back to them. Parents protested, and I warn you if you have kids here, though we've bleeped it, I think we've caught everything. They protested pornographic school books there at the library. Here you go.
After seeing a September 9th school
in the
board
library.
meeting in Texas on pornography in the schools, I decided to check the titles at my child's school. Both of these books include pedophilia, sex between men and boys.
Scouts manual.
Both books describe different acts. One book describes a 4th grade boy performing oral sex on an adult male. From the author, Maya Kobabe.
Stephen
Quote,
King.
I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I am going to give you the job of your life, and then I want you inside me, end quote. From the author, Jonathan Evison. What if I told you I touched another guy's dick? What if I told you I sucked it? I was 10 years old, but it's true. I sucked Doug Goebel's dick, the real estate guy, and he sucked mine too. This is not an oversight at Fairfax High School.
I'm sorry.
This material. There are children in the audience.
Yeah,
Wow.
there are children in the library and in the classroom.
Virginia law makes the possession,
The red snatch
distribution,
of courage.
and exhibition of obscene material and child pornography a felony crime. Every day you allow such books to
Domestic
be in our
terrorists,
schools
folks.
makes you complicit in furthering potential violations of the law. Finally, the plan talks about promoting parent participation, and I agree.
You're pushing on kids. Her son showed her a reading assignment given to him by his Fairfax County Public School and said, this is, quote, all in their 20s, minus women, fucking cows, dreaming of rape, waiting for... These are a part of a reading assignment that your school assigned to our kids.
We have children in the
all
room.
This mother
No
asked
obscenities,
for...
Oh, so it's only
was
okay to teach that to children when parents aren't in the room. Got it.
Read the trash. But you refuse. The Virginia Department of Education refused.
When people act like this is domestic terrorism, have you ever watched the Brits in Parliament? Do you have any idea what our founding fathers did when they were arguing?
Yeah.
To call someone a fool was way worse than to call them a... I can't even say what it is.
You can't say it.
It's about as bad as it gets. You want to accuse these people of being domestic terrorists because they're reading your reading assignments out loud? And this is what's really important. They want to operate in the dark. Always. No. We want to assign this to your children. We want to read this to your children. You can't read it back to us when there are other eyes on us. We want to do it when we have your children for 8 hours completely unsupervised. Nothing could possibly go wrong there. This is my point here is this is really scary. This is unprecedented. And if you look at them labeling you, the FBI, DOJ, this is why... Don't blame Americans. We're going to go to Mug Club here in a little bit and read this letter here to Dave Chappelle. Don't blame Americans. People in the media, people, of course, in government, but I repeat myself right now, elites. Don't blame Americans for no longer trusting your institutions when the institutions of education are obviously no longer of any value. Yeah. And then the institutions of our intelligence agencies, once actually generally seen as the good guys, have decided to selectively enforce the law and investigate one group of non-violent offenders who are concerned parents waiting their turn to get up at municipal meetings, labeling them as domestic terrorists. Don't get mad when those parents don't trust the FBI or the DOJ. Don't get mad when those parents don't trust the most secure and safe election of all time because it's being parroted by the media, who, by the way, have been silent about these stories. Don't get mad at Americans for no longer trusting these institutions when you have decided to subvert them and then use them for political gain. Don't act like people have politicized COVID. You did it first. Don't act like people have politicized education. You did it first. Don't act like people have politicized the FBI and DOJ. You've done it first. Don't act like people are politicizing the media and there was some bygone era of journalism and Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather. It never existed. You committed this sin first, and this is people reacting to it. The good thing is you can count on conservatives, you can count on right-wingers reacting in a way that is orderly and in accordance with the Constitution. But something you don't like to hear, if you keep investigating them and arresting them and holding them in jail without trial, the Constitution has corrections for that too. Don't overreach and then blame it on the people who react to you overreaching. It's got to stop. We are headed off a cliff, and we're not headed off a cliff because of both sides. We're not. We're headed off a cliff because these institutions have decided that instead of keeping America safe, they want to utilize them to destroy one half of America, and one half of America at some point isn't going to have it.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.